Hi, it's me, Zaphod Beeblebrox. If I look hot and sweaty, it's because I am hot and sweaty. It's pretty hot here. Today, I've been having another little play with this, and I managed to get the frequency counter to work and produce some figures. I'm not convinced the figures are actually accurate, but they do change appropriately. The lowest seems to be about 2 hertz according to this. So I've tried it. It seems to give me about 2 hertz according to the thing, but in fact it's not. It's a different figure. I can't remember what it was now. On the Pi Pico, I had to play with this quite a bit. I had to step the signal through a transistor and a 5-volt supply. There's a 1K resistor there that's not actually currently in use, an LED that's not currently in use, but there's the transistor, a 2N2222, and basically I just had to step the signal through that, and using Python, and all I was doing, I was switching the signal off, then straight on again, then off, straight on, flipping between the two, on, off, on, off, on, off. And the fastest I could achieve was just under 75,000 cycles. That's not very good. People have told me I need to run the Pi on C++. But quite honestly, I've got that far, and that just tells me I am, even running it on C++, I am unlikely to get the Pi to cycle faster than 100,000 times a second, so 100K, and I really wanted to cycle it at least 300K. So now this is for the microflash that I'm building, or the idea of the microflash. So I've been having a look at things. I do have other microprocessors available. I've got an ATtiny88 that's on its way. Sorry, the ATtiny88 is here. I just need the motherboard that goes with it to arrive. That's on its way. That's in Butner, North Carolina, as far as I know. So if it was a snail, it would be here tomorrow, but most likely it's going to be Wednesday, because we're relying on DHL, and they're about the slowest around. And heck, even the post office is faster than DHL. So anyway, the upshot of this is I cannot use the Pi to control a microflash. It's just too slow. However, I think I saw a stick of 555 chips in my drawer. So if I use a 555 chip, there's a chance I could get that up to at least a gigahertz. If I can get a millionth of a second out of it, that will be absolutely phenomenal. Megahertz rather. If I can get a millionth of a second out of it, that will be absolutely phenomenal. But I don't know if that's possible. I do know I can probably get it out of the LEDs. And here's a little trick with the LEDs. If I'm only giving it a millionth of a second of power, I don't need a resistor, because it's not going to burn out in a millionth of a second. LEDs burn out through heat, and a millionth of a second power is not going to burn it out as long as it's allowed a couple of seconds to cool down. So yeah, I think I'm going to try it that way, with a millionth of a second, or whatever I can get out of it. If it's only 100,000th of a second, it's not worth doing, because the fastest oh, what do they call them now? It's a microflash, Edgerton microflash. The fastest Edgerton microflash, which is basically an air gap flash, that creates the flash by sparking 50,000 volts through air. That gives you about a millionth of a second exposure. So I'm competing against that, and this is all very interesting, and it might look to you like I'm going nowhere, and that is actually in fact true. I am going nowhere at the moment, but success is built on the bodies of failures. And if you remember the guy with the slinky, and he was down to his last 50 cents and finally got it right and built his slinky, and it took off. So I'm thinking I'm going to keep on with this microflash, because it's been done, but I'm trying to do it a budget version. And once I've got the budget version done, because there's some guy out there trying to sell microflashes for like $1,000 a pop. They're not worth it. I'm going to put together the schematic and the plans and the software, because I can still use the Pi Pico for my timing calculations, even if it's not for the flash duration. I can still use it. So I'm thinking that I can just do this and produce a very good competitor to the microflash. I can't remember what it's called now. I'm not going to give it any publicity because it's so darned overpriced. And that will allow people to take pictures of things like bullets in flight. And I've done a similar thing with an ordinary Canon 540EX. But that was limited to 138 thousandths of a second, so it's a bit slow. So yes, it did kind of sort of capture an air gun pellet in flight, but that was it. It wasn't any better than that. Now, with a millionth of a second, he should be able to catch a 223 or maybe even a 220 Swift in flight at full speed. Anyway, that's my latest, and yes, this does appear. This frequency AVR frequency counter does appear to produce a number. It does change when I change the frequency of the pulsing on the Pi. The Pi maxes out at 1,000th of a second. I cannot get it to go any faster than 1,000th of a second using the timer module. But taking the timer module out, I can get it to go a lot faster than that. So according to the timer module, I'm going at 1,000th of a second. According to the to this thing, it's 35k hertz, and then without the timer module I'm getting a 70k hertz out of it. So I'm thinking that it's probably that removing the timer is doubling the speed, so the timer's not putting much delay into it, which tells me that the Pi Pico is a little bit on the slow side. This, however, I'm not sure that this is 100% accurate. I set the Pico going on a 1 second pulse, and it gave me 5 hertz on this. So I'm going to say that this is probably about as accurate as John Major's autobiography, or anything that or anything that Boris Johnson has said lately. So yeah. Now, what are the plans in for the future? Well, I'm going to find my 555 chips, going to put together a circuit. I've found a resistor capacitor calculator. I've got resistors and capacitors. Whether I've got the right resistors and the right capacitors, I don't know, but I'm going to try it, and I'm going to try to get the 555 to give me at least 100,000th of a second, preferably more, preferably like a millionth of a second. I just want to give the briefest possible flash, and then I'm going to have to find a transistor to activate my LEDs. Now, as I said, I probably don't need a resistor. I probably don't even need a heatsink on the transistor, with the fact it's like a millionth of a second every few seconds. So that is probably going to work. And that's all I've got for you now, and I'll talk to you again.